I'm Corbett Wall with DVAuction, here with your feeder flash for Friday, October the 27th, brought to you in part by Toromox. That's the Moxie with the Moxie by Norbrook. Use Toromox to treat and control gastrointestinal roundworms, lungworms, cattle grubs, mites, and lice. And Toromox is proven to effectively protect cattle from reinfection of key internal parasites. For more information, go to norbrook.com. Acapulco's loss and Texas's gain. I'm talking about Hurricane Otis, the biggest hurricane to ever hit that western side there on the Pacific. It quickly became a Category 5, and I mean hit right on Acapulco. And Acapulco is not what it was 30 or 40 years ago. It's not the destination that everybody hopes to go to. The drug gangs and those kind of came in there and scared off most of your better tourists. So, but the properties are still there, or they were still there until Wednesday morning, whenever that Hurricane Otis hit, and I mean devastation. 27 people confirmed dead there, and all the power out, and just everything just totally destroyed around Acapulco. But it trekked across northern Mexico there and brought much needed moisture to Texas. Central Texas, North Texas, the heart of Texas has been extremely dry here for most of 2 years really. And they got really good widespread 3 to 6 inches of rain. More's coming kind of in waves there, but it was fantastic rain there, and much needed. It's going to help out your hard red winter wheat pasture, which most of everybody had in, and a lot of it was up, but just not enough to really turn out on, and pretty tender there. But it's looking like there and into southern Oklahoma at least, they're going to have some pretty decent kind of wheat, and they may not be able to turn out November the 15th like they traditionally want to turn out. But we're thinking by Thanksgiving or NFR time at least, they'll be turning some cattle out there and should have pretty decent winter wheat pastures to turn out on. We've seen a big devastating loss on the board, complete collapse on Monday after a pretty big collapse the previous Thursday, before and after your bearish cattle on feed report. But as bad as everything was, and as down in the dumps as we were early this past week, your fats have started trading pretty well, and they only lost $1 to $3 cash. That's not terrible. We've seen your real-time index based on the 800-pound steer. It's $9 lower. I mean, that's surmountable, and we've seen a lot of your calf prices fall as much as $20 this week. But they were at extremely elevated levels. I mean, things are still pretty rosy when you look at it, but it's kind of a reminder of what can happen if you don't take care of yourself, or it's going to happen. Whether or not you take care of yourself or protect yourself is up to you. Risk Associates would like to show you how LRPs allow ranchers and feedlots to establish a floor price while leaving the upside price potential open. So if you're interested in that, especially up in the Midwest, up in the Nebraska area, get a hold of them at riskassociatesinc.net. Talk about your board on Thursday. October live cattle futures up 57 cents, and your nearbys kind of needed to come closer to cash a little bit. Still got a decent basis for your hedged cattle feeder, but it's narrowing quite a bit. But 181.70, we saw the Southern Plains trade at 183 on Thursday. December down 10 cents at 179.32. Your back months were down 60 cents to down $1.10. Your feeder cattle for October was actually up 57 cents. It's got to get back up here because it's got to stay close to your CME cash feeder cattle index, which is hanging way high. Once again, it was hanging high there a couple of weeks ago, and then it come back down where it needs to be, closer to your real-time index, and then now it's not coming down again. Of course, it's 2 or 3 days old there, And when they get long sales and things like that, it takes them forever to get that thing right, get everything in there, do their corrections and the like. But it's hanging around 240.5 also, but bound to come down a lot more here in the next day or two. November feeder cattle down 155, and all your back months were down still, but November down 155 at 236.50. Rest of your back months down 145 to 177. Your CME loved the collapse of the cattle markets because we saw the busiest trading that we have seen since COVID when everything fell apart. But they just like a lot of trades, gives them some commish there. But look at your Chicago Board of Trade. Your corn was down 3/4 of a cent at 479 1/4. November beans down 8 3/4 at 1279 1/2. Kansas City hard red winter wheat for December up 5 3/4 cent at 654 3/4. Your fat cattle trade, and we saw some trade in all your major areas that we get to see information from. Iowa's actually sold quite a few. They had confirmed sales early on Thursday of 1,300 head, 20,700 for the week. But on Thursday, the confirmed sales were at 183. Now, we did see 185 break loose pretty prevalent on Thursday afternoon, and I assume that Iowa got plenty of the 185 also. Nebraska showed 185 for early trade, but that's where everybody was really wanting to be. They had some of that earlier in the week, right after the board collapsed, and then it fell back down to the 83 level. We traded at 186 to 187 a week ago, so $2 to $3 lower, which for the kind of collapse we saw on the board and the bearish things, it wasn't completely terrible. But Iowa sold dress cattle at 290, and Nebraska had 4,300 head confirmed sales, 13,600 for the week, 183 to 185 in Nebraska live, and 290 to 292, which is $2 to $4 lower, but like I said, not terrible for as bad as things could have been and as bad as things looked earlier in the week. Kansas 600 head on Thursdays all confirmed, and only 1,100 head for the week. 183 was the only live price we saw. 289 dressed on some northern Kansas cattle. Texas sold 1,000 at 183, and they've only sold 1,400 for the week. So the Southern Plains is $1 to $2 lower live cash. Whether or not they're going to continue to trade more cattle at 183 in the Southern Plains, or they're going to hold out for more, it's unclear at this point, but there'll be some more business done here on Friday. Box speed cutout values lower again, just can't seem to hold it. We have gained some ground this week, but not able to hold it all. Choice cuts down 65 cents at 306.85 on Thursday afternoon. Selects down 197 at 279.69. Your slaughter about on pace with a week ago. 502,000 estimated harvest for the first 4 days of the week. That's exactly the same as this point last week. 11,000 less than the same week a year ago. We are expecting an abbreviated schedule here on Friday with some plants, major plants that we know, going to be, if not completely dark, they're going to be slowed quite a bit. But your actual slaughter information come back for the week ending October the 14th. Had your average dressed steer carcass weight at 927 pounds. My goodness, that's 5 pounds bigger than the previous report. Talk about what else is going on. Stay Tough Fencing. Stay Tough Fence offers a broad variety of net wire fence designs and profiles, as well as barbed wire to cover all your containment and exclusion needs. Stay tough. Stay strong. Stay tight. Stay tough. Let's talk about your feeder cattle market, your real-time index on DVAuction. Late in the day on Thursday, sitting at 232.84. That was down another $1.82. And like I said, your real-time index has lost a little over $9 this week from when it started going down, and it had lost some at the tail end of last week too, with the board being so down so hard last Thursday. And like I talked about earlier, CME cash feeder cattle index hanging way up there at 240.62, when that would be a very, very premium price for a load of 800-pound all black, northern type steers, how they can say that that is the price, average price for 800-pound steers, including small bunch of singles and cattle and South Texas all the way to northern Montana. I do not know, because that's not realistic. I'm going to be in Paris, Texas this weekend. If you guys are in the Paris area, stop by Paris Livestock. We got the Red River Beefmaster Performance Group production sale, and that's going to be at 11 o'clock in the morning on Saturday. Talk about your big sales on Thursday. How about Winter Livestock in Pratt, Kansas? Just 1,900. That's a lighter run than they would typically have, but still good enough to get a trend on for the most part. Feeder steers and steer calves sold $2 to $4 lower. Your other classes were kind of uneven, but Pratt had a stick out sale that I saw. 60 head of steers weighed 878 and bring 245. Farmers and Ranchers Livestock in Salina, Kansas had a light run. 1,600 head. For the most part, all classes sold $5 to $10 lower, and they didn't have a whole lot bigger drags. It was mostly smaller offerings in there. Your National Beefwire stick out sale of the day was Ogallala Livestock in Ogallala, Nebraska. 5,500 head for them. It was a calf special. You look at your automated market report through Cattle Market Central, and you see your best tested weights are all lightweight calves. 423 head of 3-weight steers in Ogallala, averaged 366 at 353.81. 1,068 head of 4-weight steer calves, averaged 447 at 330.53, and 930 head of 5-weight steer calves in Ogallala, Nebraska, averaged 552 with a weighted average price of 282.55. Look at the heifers. 510 head of 3-weight heifers, averaged 363 at 301.30. 1,097 head of 4-weights, averaged 454 at 291.50, and 461 head of 5-weight heifer calves. Ogallala Livestock Auction averaged 534, the weighted average price of 260.74. Bluegrass Stockyards in Stanford, Kentucky. They had a good run of yearlings last week, had a pretty good run of yearlings this week despite the sharply lower markets around, but didn't lose too much ground there at Bluegrass Stockyards South. Their 8-weight steers, there was almost as many as there was last week. There was 305 head of 8-weight steers at Stanford, Kentucky. They averaged 861 with a weighted average price of 230.48, which was less than $4.50 lower. So pretty impressive the way they held that market together. Fairview Sale Barn in Fairview, Illinois sold a load of heifers awful high. I was pretty impressed with 65 yearling heifers, weighed 819 and bring 225.50 in Illinois. But the most impressive quote that I saw anywhere on Thursday in your Macrocin No BS top quote for the day come out of Columbus Sales Pavilion in Columbus, Nebraska. It was 102 big steers, weighed 1020 and bring 238. And that's your feeder flash for Friday.